Hey everyone, Dr. Steve here. You know it as well as I do, but most students need a B or better in A&P. But did you know that students are doing that all over the US using my Anatomy and Physiology Digital Suite as a low-cost alternative to expensive textbooks? Digital Suite delivers the key concepts of A&P with short, assignable tutor videos and a bulleted narrative study guide that not only explain the concepts of A&P, they show them happening. Combined with state-of-the-art dissection and physiology lab simulations and a vast question bank for quizzes, homework assignments, and exams, Digital Suite meets students where they are and gives them the tools to master the content. It's the perfect supplement to an OER textbook or just on its own. If you're an A&P instructor, contact your McGraw-Hill representative today and ask about Anatomy and Physiology Digital Suite. If you're a student, tell your instructor about it. There's a link to Digital Suite in the show notes of this episode. Get your B or better in A&P with A&P Digital Suite.
Happy holidays! Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Anatomy and Physiology Bit by Bit. I'm your host, Dr. Steve Sullivan, coming to you from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where I've been teaching anatomy and physiology since 2002. Today we're doing something a little different, but still very much anatomy and physiology. We're going to walk through a single day, Christmas Day, and use it as a living, breathing map of how your body works. While I'm an American, my heritage is half Irish and half Italian. My mother being the Italian one. Since we didn't really see my father's family all that often growing up, I largely grew up in an Italian-American family, and that's how I identify. I grew up in central New Jersey in the United States, and while we were not very religious, I was raised in the Roman Catholic tradition. I received all the sacraments, and we celebrated all the Catholic holidays. Christmas was a very big deal in my house. I remember years that my mother would cook for 40 people. Aunts, uncles, my grandparents, cousins, and even my close Jewish friends who were always invited to join us on Christmas Day. And I would usually end up at one of their houses on Hanukkah or Passover. One year, my father had to build a table out of sawhorses and plywood and make it into an L shape so it would span 2 separate rooms in our house just so everybody could fit and have a place to sit at the table. Those are very good memories. And my wife's family, who is 100% Italian-American, does the traditional Feast of the Seven Fishes on Christmas Eve every year, which I also love. For some reason, that's one tradition we didn't do when I was growing up, but my wife and I have been together for almost 25 years, and it is now ingrained in me. But for this episode, I'm going to focus on what was the traditional Christmas day for me and take you through the physiology of Christmas Day. Now remember, I'm talking about central New Jersey in the northeastern United States. So Christmas time is wintertime, and wintertime is cold. Think of this as physiology in motion. The hormones that nudge you awake before your alarm, the way the blood vessels react to cold air, why the smell of pine can hit you with emotion, what actually causes the food coma, why paper cuts feel like betrayal, and what's happening in your nervous system when family stress shows up right on schedule. So grab your coffee, your cocoa, your earbuds, whatever ritual makes you feel grounded, and let's spend Christmas Day inside the human body. Scene 1, the early wake-up. Your brain's internal clock. It's still dark outside, the house is quiet, but your body is already making a decision about whether you're sleeping in or waking up. Even if you don't have kids bouncing off the walls at 6 a.m., many people wake earlier on big days. Part of that is psychological, anticipation, emotion, schedule change, but part of it is biology, your circadian rhythm. Deep in your hypothalamus sits a little cluster of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, your body's master clock. It coordinates daily rhythms, sleep and wakefulness. It also coordinates body temperature, hormone release, appetite, so many things that feel like mood or habit, but are actually tightly orchestrated physiology. As morning approaches, your body begins a very predictable sequence. One of the stars is cortisol, a steroid hormone released by the adrenal cortex. You might associate cortisol with stress, and it does play a role there, but cortisol is also part of normal wakefulness. Many people have a cortisol awakening response. Cortisol rises in the early morning and helps your body transition into alertness. It mobilizes energy, meaning it helps make glucose available, and it increases responsiveness to catecholamines like epinephrine and norepinephrine. Meanwhile, melatonin from the pineal gland is tapering off. Melatonin is a darkness hormone. It tends to rise when it's dark and help facilitate sleep. Bright light, especially blue wavelengths, suppress melatonin. That's why the screen on your cell phone at midnight can push your sleep back. Some people actually wear blue blocker lenses on glasses so that they don't get those blue lights. But on Christmas morning, even dim light and routine cues can be enough to start shifting your brain toward wakefulness. And if you're someone who slept poorly the night before because you were traveling, excited, wrapping gifts late, your body might feel wired but tired. That's the tug of war between sleep homeostasis. Your accumulating need for sleep and the circadian signal saying, it's morning, let's go. If you're a parent listening, kids are also different. Their circadian rhythms and sleep pressure behave differently, and excitement is a powerful arousal signal. Children can appear to run on pure adrenaline and holiday magic. Adults tend to run on cortisol and regret. So you sit up, you stretch, maybe you check the time, and your body is already balancing autonomic tone, hormones, and expectations. Christmas Day has begun. Scene 2, you step outside, thermoregulation and blood vessels. Now imagine opening the door to a blast of winter air. Immediately your body reacts, fast, reflexive, automatic. That's homeostasis, the theme of physiology maintaining internal stability in the face of external change. Cold receptors in your skin send signals through sensory pathways to the hypothalamus, which functions like a thermostat. Your goal is to keep core temperatures in a narrow range. When cold hits, your body tries to reduce heat loss and increase heat production. One of the first strategies is vasoconstriction, a narrowing of the blood vessels in the skin. Smooth muscle in the vessel wall contracts, reducing blood flow to the periphery. This conserves heat by warming blood closer to the core. That's why your fingers and toes feel cold first, and why the tip of your nose feels like it's being personally targeted by the atmosphere.
I'm so cold that I can use my nose drippings as a pair of chopsticks.
If it's cold enough, or you're out long enough, your body adds another strategy: shivering. Shivering is involuntary muscle activity, rapid cycles of contraction that generate heat. Muscle contraction produces heat as a byproduct of ATP usage and inefficient energy conversion. Now here's a tiny holiday bonus fact. Cold can also make you pee. There's a phenomenon called cold-induced diuresis. When you vasoconstrict in the periphery, more blood returns to the core circulation. Your body interprets that as a volume increase, and the kidneys may respond by increasing urine production to reduce perceived excess volume, even though there is no excess volume. So yes, cold weather can make you feel like you need the bathroom more often, even if you're not drinking more. So whether you're walking the dog, grabbing something from the car, or doing the heroic task of carrying a Christmas tree stand across an icy driveway, your body is running thermoregulation in the background. You're not thinking about vasoconstriction, but it is happening. You're not consciously initiating shivering, but your hypothalamus is. Physiology does not take off for the holidays. Scene 3, the smell of Christmas, olfaction, and the limbic system. Okay, so you come back inside, the air changes, warmer, softer, and maybe it carries a scent. Pine, cinnamon, cloves, something baking. And suddenly, you're not just smelling, you're remembering. Smell is special. The anatomy of olfaction has a directness that most senses don't. Odorant molecules bind receptors in the olfactory epithelium high in the nasal cavity. Those receptors send signals through the cribriform plate to the olfactory bulb, and from there to regions that connect strongly with the limbic system, structures involved in emotion and memory. That's why a smell can drop you into a moment from childhood with almost no warning. It's not just association, it's neural wiring. Olfaction has close connections to the amygdala and the hippocampal regions involved in emotional memory. So when your brain catches that scent of pine or vanilla, it's not simply analyzing molecules, it's also, depending on your experiences, activating networks of familiarity, comfort, nostalgia, and even grief. And that's one of the most human parts of anatomy and physiology. The way the body's sensory systems are not separate from emotion, they are interwoven. So if Christmas smells make you feel calm, or tense, or sentimental, your body is not being dramatic. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it evolved to do: attach meaning to sensory cues and use that meaning to guide behavior. Scene 4: breakfast begins, digestive phases, and blood flow. Now the day moves into food. Maybe it's cinnamon rolls, pancakes, eggs, fruit, pastries, coffee, whatever the tradition is. But digestion begins before the first bite. When you see food, smell food, even think about food, your body enters the cephalic phase of digestion. The brain, via parasympathetic pathways, especially the vagus nerve, stimulates salivary glands, gastric acid secretion, enzyme secretion, and prepares the gastrointestinal tract for incoming work. This is your body anticipating. Food is coming, prepare the system. As you start eating, the oral cavity does more than chew. Taste receptors send signals through cranial nerves, and the mechanical act of chewing stimulates saliva production. Saliva contains enzymes like amylase and lipase, and it helps prepare a bolus of food for swallowing. Swallowing itself is a coordinated reflex involving multiple muscles and cranial nerves, something that seems simple until you teach it and realize how many moving parts are involved. Then, as the food reaches the stomach begins mechanically mixing up the food, which is mechanical digestion, and chemically breaking it down, which is chemical digestion. Stretch receptors in the stomach wall detect distension and increase gastric activity. The stomach's acid and enzymes begin protein digestion, though importantly, much digestion and absorption happens later in the small intestine. And while all that's going on, your cardiovascular system shifts blood flow. After a meal, blood flow increases to the gastrointestinal tract. This is part of the rest and digest parasympathetic response. It's a redistribution. More blood to the splanchnic circulation, relatively less prioritized for skeletal muscle if you're sitting around. If you've ever eaten a big meal and then tried to exercise immediately after and felt awful, that is part of why. Your body is prioritizing digestion. Scene 4: sugar, insulin, and the mid-morning energy wave. Woohoo! Now, if you're like me, Christmas Day often includes grazing. Some cookies here, some candy there, maybe some sweet drinks, and our physiology responds. As glucose enters the bloodstream after carbohydrate digestion, the pancreas releases insulin from its beta cells. Insulin's job is to help cells take up glucose and store energy, especially in the liver and muscle as glycogen, and in fat as triglycerides. Insulin isn't bad, it's a normal hormone, but large spikes in blood sugar and insulin can create patterns people recognize: quick energy, then a dip, especially if meals are unbalanced and lack protein, fiber, or fat. Your brain is especially sensitive to fuel and to perceived energy stability. That's part of why kids can go from angelic to meltdown faster than you can say peppermint bark. It's not just behavior. It's a nervous system riding waves of stimulation, fatigue, hunger, and sometimes overstimulation. Meanwhile, caffeine enters the mix. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, reducing the perception of sleepiness and increasing alertness. But it doesn't replace sleep. It's like turning off the check engine light in your car without actually fixing the engine. So if you're feeling keyed up, jittery, or strangely tired, the cause might be a combination of sleep debt, cortisol patterns, caffeine, and post-meal physiology. It's not weakness. It's homeostatic mechanisms trying to stay stable in a day that is, by design, not stable. Scene number 6, the food coma. Post-meal sleepiness is one of the most famous sensations of holiday physiology. What's actually happening with this food coma? People love to blame tryptophan in turkey.
Gobble, gobble.
And it's become a cultural meme. But in normal servings, turkey is not a magical sedative. The truth is broader and more interesting. After a large meal, especially one rich in carbohydrates and fats, several things happen. You get parasympathetic dominance. This increases and your body shifts into a rest and digest state. Blood flow is prioritized toward digestion. The gastrointestinal tract releases hormones involved in satiety, signals that tell you you've eaten enough. If you were sleep deprived already, the meal can unmask the fatigue that you were feeling underneath. Also, big meals can change body temperature slightly and influence comfort and alertness. Add a warm room, sitting on a couch, a lull in activity, and suddenly your nervous system says, this is a perfect moment to conserve energy. So the food coma is not one molecule, one food, one myth. It's an integrated response: autonomic tone, hormones, blood flow distribution, and context. And context does matter. If you're relaxed, safe, and full, your body is more willing to let your guard down. That's biology too. Scene 7. Gift wrapping injuries, skin, pain, and why paper cuts hurt so much. Now it's time to either wrap gifts or open them. And suddenly, anatomy becomes personal. A paper cut is tiny, but it can feel disproportionately painful. Why? Well, your skin is richly innervated with sensory receptors. The fingertips especially have high receptor density for fine touch and pain because hands are tools. Now remember, pain receptors are really nociceptors. Nociceptors are stimulated by the chemicals released by damaged tissues. And since paper cuts are shallow, they may irritate nerve endings near the surface repeatedly as you move your fingers. Also, paper cuts often occur in places that flex, like near finger joints. Every motion reopens the wound slightly, and the thinness of the cut can create a sharp, clean stimulation of nerve endings rather than the dull ache of a deeper injury. Then there's the packaging. Hard plastic clamshells that deserve their own anatomy lecture. If you strain your hands opening packaging, you're recruiting muscles of the hand, thenar and hypothenar groups, flexors and extensors, and stressing small tendons and joints. Those structures are built for dexterity, not brute force. So if your thumb hurts after a morning of toy assembly, you've experienced hand anatomy in real time. Scene 8. Family stress, autonomic nervous system, and the physiology of tension. At some point, for many people, there's a moment, a comment, a conflict, an awkward conversation, a political detour.
You can't even say Merry Christmas anymore.
A sharp edge under the wrapping paper of social expectations. And suddenly, your body changes. This is the sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight branch. Your hypothalamus signals through pathways that increase your heart rate, increase your blood pressure, redirect blood flow towards skeletal muscle, and sharpen alertness. You may notice faster heartbeat, shallow breathing, tense jaw, tight shoulders, dry mouth. Those are not random. They're coordinated. On the hormonal side, the adrenal medulla releases epinephrine and norepinephrine, and the adrenal cortex can contribute cortisol if stress is sustained. Now here's something important. Your body can't always distinguish between physical threat and social threat. The physiological response to a family conflict can resemble the response to danger. The brain interprets interpersonal tension as a meaningful threat because, evolutionarily, social belonging mattered for survival. That's why you may feel flooded by emotion or have difficulty thinking clearly during conflict. High arousal can narrow attention. It doesn't mean you're irrational. It means your body is prioritizing immediate survival behaviors: defend, escape, and freeze. One of the most powerful tools to shift autonomic tone is breathing, especially slow, controlled exhalation. Exhalation is associated with increased parasympathetic activity via the vagal pathways. This isn't magic, it's physiology you can access intentionally. So if today's episode gives you one practical takeaway, when stress spikes, your body is doing something ancient and protective. You can respond with anatomy by slowing down your breathing, lengthen your exhale, and give your nervous system a new set of inputs. Scene 9. Crowds, travel, and the immune system's front lines. Maybe you're traveling for the holidays. Maybe you're gathering indoors with lots of people. Maybe it's cold and dry outside and your nose feels like a desert. This is a good moment to remember that your immune system isn't just something that wakes up when you're sick. It's constantly active, especially at the boundaries between you and the world. Your mucosal surfaces, nose, mouth, respiratory tract, are major immune front lines. Mucus traps particles, cilia help move them out, and immune cells patrol the area. In the northern hemisphere, in winter, indoor air can be dry. Dry air can affect mucosal function, and if you're sleep deprived and stressed, immune function can be impacted. Your body may be less effective at certain defenses. That doesn't mean you'll get sick automatically, but it helps explain why big life disruption plus winter plus gatherings is a classic setup for catching something. Now, the bacteria or the virus, the pathogen in general, has to be there for you to get sick, but we often have those living inside us anyway. Your immune system is a living network influenced by sleep, nutrition, hydration, stress, and exposure. Scene 10. The evening wind down, alcohol, sleep, and the second half of the night. As the day ends, many people unwind with a drink.
Make it a double!
Let's put physiology to that. Alcohol affects multiple systems. It acts on the brain, shifting neurotransmission, and can make you feel sleepy. But alcohol also disrupts sleep architecture. People often fall asleep faster, but sleep becomes more fragmented later in the night, and the rapid eye movement patterns can be altered. Alcohol also inhibits antidiuretic hormone, released from the posterior pituitary. Antidiuretic hormone helps your kidneys conserve water. When it is suppressed, you produce more urine, which contributes to dehydration and nighttime waking. That's why alcohol can make you wake up thirsty with a dry mouth or with a headache. So the nightcap is not a straightforward sleep aid. It's a trade. Sedation up front, poorer sleep quality later. Then there's the overall nervous system shift. After the lights dim, melatonin rises again, core body temperature begins to fall slightly, and your body tries to reestablish rhythm. If you've traveled across time zones,
Captain, how soon can you land?
I can't tell.
You can tell me, I'm a doctor.
or disrupted your usual routine, this is where you feel it. All right, let's finish up with Christmas as physiology and physiology as a human story. Christmas Day is a great physiology lesson because it's not a lab. It's real life. It's sensation, emotion, movement, digestion, stress, sleep, and memory, all woven together. And that's what anatomy and physiology really are. Not separate chapters, but an integrated story of how we stay alive, adaptive, and most importantly, human. So the next time you feel the cold air hit your skin, or you catch the smell of cinnamon and it stops you in your tracks, or you hit that post-meal drowsiness, or your heart rate jumps during a tense conversation, remember, your body is not being random. It is responding. It is regulating. It is trying to keep you stable while you live a complicated but meaningful day. Okay, everyone, thanks for spending part of your holiday with me. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Kwanzaa, and if you observed Hanukkah already, I know this is late, but I hope it was wonderful. If none of these apply to you, I hope you enjoyed this fun episode anyway, and you have a happy and prosperous New Year. This has been Anatomy and Physiology Bit by Bit. I'm Dr. Steve Sullivan, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your instructor, a colleague, friend, family member, or just someone who loves learning how the human body works. And wherever you are, however you celebrate, Take care of your nervous system, hydrate like it matters, and be kind to your own physiology. I hope this podcast is helping you get your beer better in AP. Good luck, and I'll talk to you next time. Anatomy and Physiology Bit by Bit is a production of Minus 55 Media and is hosted by the Believe Network. Please take the time to rate the podcast and leave a review. Special thanks to my family, Bucks County Community College, and McGraw-Hill Education, where your instructor can find Anatomy and Physiology Digital Suite, my low-cost, tutor video-based digital learning solution for anatomy and physiology currently being used at several colleges and universities.
If you're the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, you know having a trusted partner makes all the difference. That's why, hands down, you count on Grainger for auto reordering. With on-time restocks, your team will have the cut-resistant gloves they need at the start of their shift. And you can end your day knowing they've got safety well in hand. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Happy holidays! Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.